Dr. McDougall, you're obviously playing with a giant eye. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're doing in there?
Hi, Bayer. Yes, I'm just reminding myself about the complex geometry of the eye muscles.
Wow. Look, I wish I had something like this when I was a medical trainee, because I found this anatomy really difficult to learn. But you're using this for research, so can you tell me a little bit about how this helps in research?
Yes, actually, we don't really research eye movements per se. We're actually interested in vestibular function, or the function of the balance sensors in your inner ear. It so happens, though, that measuring eye movements and eye muscle responses is a really good way to assess inner ear function. So I have to know kind of a little bit about this complex geometry.
Wow. Look, I've got a patient who I need to take to theatre, and I need to do a little bit of simulation work with an operative scenario. Do you have anything you could help me out with, do you think?
Sure do. I'm glad you asked me that question. We've got an operating theatre we've been working on recently. Right.
Do you mind if I hop in with you?
Please do.
Lovely.
So this is a bit of a proof of concept, I have to admit. We've spent a couple of months on building our cartoon version of an operating theatre, but I think it seems a little convincing to me. I have powerful lights hanging on booms. Everything's fully three-dimensional to me. We implemented some nice interactive features. So, for example, over here, the patient monitor screen actually animates vital signs in real time. And if I look over here, we hung an X-ray here, and I thought it was really great the day this started working because it's actually transparent in all the right places. So
wow.
If I hold my laparoscopic instrument behind it, you can see through the light parts.
Lovely, and there's a mirror.
There's a mirror there. Can you see yourself in the mirror?
I can.
So that's us, the two of us, together in the mirror.
Great.
We're wearing the appropriate headwear, and we have our surgical...
Can't have enough mirrors.
Visible.
Great. Oh, and there's a live trace of the obs of this patient, who is very stable, thankfully.
Yes, that's a good sign.
Even though we're missing an anaesthetist.
Oh, we better load that next then.
Excellent. Well, what else do we have in this theatre?
So I think one of the coolest features of this simulation is that there's a giant video projector, or at least a video screen here hanging on the boom, and the image that's being generated is coming from the end of your laparoscopic instrument.
Yeah, and here's the food pipe and the trachea, which... There we go. And if we try and get inside, would you believe this is where I've got a patient in theatre, or who's on his way to theatre, and he's got a little pen lid stuck in here.
Disaster.
It is a disaster. You don't happen to know him by any chance. He's a research officer, works at the University of Sydney.
I hope that's not my Italian student.
Well, he said something about, his research officer, his supervisor being incredibly funny, so probably it's not yours.
Well, you've got... If it is mine, you've got to save him. Someone's got to laugh at my jokes.
So I reckon I can probably see your instruments in here. What do you think?
Indeed, if I come in with my laparoscopic instrument, you'll see there's the end of my pincer.
Oh, wow.
And I can...
And do you reckon you can clip some vessels for me, perhaps?
So this really shows off the tracking, this virtual reality system, that we can do precision work like this with virtual controllers.
That's lovely. Do you reckon we can maybe even have a look around in the belly, or, one of the things about the virtual world I can already see is I can even go through the patient, and it's not something that I could do in real life. So there's the bowel using my virtual camera. Do you reckon maybe you could even wander in there with your head?
Indeed, I think this is obviously...
Give us a look.
On a flat screen, we're all used to suffering a two-dimensional view of geometry like this, but in virtual reality, it can be 3D.
Oh, wow.
So for me, all of this stuff looks fully three-dimensional, and I get a much better understanding about the relationship between objects.
That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about... you've clearly been doing this for a while for surgical simulation. What advantages do you see of this technology in surgery?
Sure. Virtual reality has a lot of advantages as far as I could see. The main one for research is that we can fully control everything that happens within this volume of 4 by 4 metres. We can control all of the environmental objects and we can also fully control the sequence of events. So, for example, we can simulate emergencies that you wouldn't otherwise want to practice too often.
Yeah.
A second great advantage is cost. So we're using about $5,000 worth of equipment for this simulation, and obviously we could easily spend $500,000 on a surgical simulator with real props and real tables and real instruments. Another great advantage is scalability. So the wonderful thing of this is if we invest effort to build one of these surgeries, we can then just email it or transfer it on a memory stick to 100 other users or 1,000 other users, and there's no scaling of cost.
And what about, remote training?
That's what I think is really exciting. So the fact that we're standing here together in this virtual simulation is fairly arbitrary. We could easily be 8,000 miles apart and still be doing exactly what we're doing now. I'd be able to see you, you could see me. We could talk together over the internet. We could practice and collaborate together on a surgery, even though we're in different countries.
Yeah, and be together in the real world at the same time. In the virtual world, in the same
time. So it's powerful stuff, we think.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's very helpful. Now I actually better get to work and get this patient to theatre. So I'll catch you in a bit. Thanks, Hamish.
Thanks very much.
So my name's Jonathan Clark. I'm a head and neck reconstructive surgeon. You've already met Kai, who's our surgical innovation officer. We're going to show you today the workflow for reconstructing the jaw using the fibula, a leg bone, using virtual surgical planning. This lady had a cancer of her jaw, which was removed in China. And unfortunately, instead of replacing the bone, they've used a plate, which has now come through the skin of her chin. This is a pretty difficult situation to reconstruct. What we need to do to start with is to see what the remaining bone looks like. Kai, can you simulate a model for me?
Sure. In this case, I will use an open source software called 3D Slicer to construct a digital model from patient CT. Here you can see the 3D visualization of patient's skull and the patient's existing jaw.
This looks pretty bad, Kai. The bone's all in the wrong position. It's all twisted. Would you be able to simulate what a normal jaw should look like?
Sure. I have customized a healthy jaw for the patient, and now you can see I superimpose the virtual jaw over the patient's existing jaw.
Okay, I can work with this. Would you be able to use your 3D printer to print that model out for me?
Sure. I can export this file and transfer it to our 3D printer and get it ready for you.
I'm on a little bit of a tight schedule here, Kai. How long is it actually going to take?
It will take about 2 hours to get it ready in high resolution. Apart from this, I also 3D printed the patient's skull and the existing jaw for planning purpose.
Okay. So this is the bone articulating with the skull here. Well, I think the next step is that we're going to need to bend a new plate that follows the exact contour of this model. I've just drawn on the model where I want the plate to go. And I'm going to send down a member of my team to bend a new plate. I think they've done a pretty good job here.
Yeah, it's looking great.
Okay. Well, look, I'm going to need some guides during the surgery. And how are you going to make these guides actually fit the exact contour of her bone?
Actually, it's very challenging, but I have a solution. I will use a new technology called surface model customization to make sure the cutting guide can match patient's jaw perfectly at the exact spot as we planned. So now you can see the cutting guide is being developed, and it will be 3D printed and be ready for the use.
Look, I'm a little bit old-fashioned. I'm not sure this is going to work. I think we better test it first.
Sure, definitely.
Actually, you've done a pretty good job, Kai.
Thank you.
It fits the model precisely, and it actually fits right on her jawbone.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Like I said at the start, we're going to be using her fibula, which is a leg bone, to reconstruct her jaw. Now, look, I've just drawn on this bit of paper how I think we should cut that fibula bone so that it matches the contour. Can you develop some guides for me so that I can get this right?
Sure. the drawing articulates the cutting angles and the measurement and the volume. So here you can see I use a software called 3D Studio Max to customize the cutting guide for this specific case. And here you can see I developed the holders to hold the fibular cutting guide in place during the operation.
Okay, so how are we going to fix it to the bone?
Here you can see they are all drill holes, so they will be used to match the guide to patient fibula during the operation.
Well, what about if I need to change the plan in the middle of the operation?
I have developed several options to adapt to the plan change. And all these cutting guides in variation will be printed and be ready for use.
All right. And you're printing the guides out for me
that's
here?
the printing process from the top view. And also, this is the front view of the printing process. Okay. It's speed up 20 times faster.
Well, let's take this into the operating room and see how it works. So I've got the fibular bone here, and we've attached the guides with the screws, and I'm cutting the bone at the precise angle. And now we're just checking that the plate actually matches the guides. I think that looks, not too bad. So the next step for us is to fit the fibular bone to her jaw using the plate that we contoured. Looking from the right, I'm pretty happy. Looking from the left, I think it matches the plan exactly.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Kai, I'm pretty pleased with this. This operation's taken 8 hours and 12 minutes, but I think we've actually saved about 4 hours of operating time.
That's a lot.
And more importantly, we've achieved an outcome that I just don't think that we could do using my expertise alone. So the next step for her is to design some teeth.
Yeah.
I'm going to need your help with that too.
Sure, no problem.
Maybe not today.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what you see the immediate benefits of this technology for you?
Well, in a case like this, it's actually really difficult to get it right without using virtual surgical planning. There's no reference points. I don't know where to put the bone, and I've got no way of working out how to place that bone in the right place. So if we don't get the bone right, I won't be able to put the teeth in the right position. And if we don't get the teeth right, she won't be able to chew, she won't be able to swallow, she won't be able to talk properly. This is a really big issue.
Yeah, so it's not just, saving the operating time and the, immediate benefit of that to the patient and the surgical team, but also the rehabilitation in the long term. And I imagine both of that also saves cost. So, well, firstly, how much does this cost?
All right, well, look, not all hospitals have got someone as talented as Kai working with them.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we were to do it somewhere else, then these can be done with industry, and it costs about $10,000 per case to use the virtual surgical planning.
Wow. And so how much does it cost us now?
Well, with Kai doing it, we're only using materials, plus, of course, Kai's valuable time. And the materials cost a couple of $100. So it's a big difference. So
how much cost is that saving?
Well, in an operation, it costs about $2,000 per hour to run an operating theatre. So if we're saving 3 hours, there's $8,000 per case immediately.
Not to mention salaries, and not to mention that, what RPA probably spends about 40 to 50 million per year just in theatre costs. Yeah. So if you scale that could be quite a significant saving to the health system. What about educational benefits?
Yeah, well, something I didn't explain during the presentation is that when we do these operations, we do it on what's called ischemic time. And that means that we detach the bone from its blood supply. But that bone can only survive for about 2-3 hours without getting its blood supply back again using microvascular surgery. So it's always a challenge for me to teach my registrars and fellows how to do this in a limited time frame because we're pressured by that ischemic time. Yep. But if we do this with virtual surgical planning, well, they can take all the time they want to figure out how to cut the bone at the right angles, to bend that plate, which normally would have done in the operating theatre. So it really is quite a big advance for surgical training.
And better training means better surgeon, meaning better care at the end of the day. As you can see, healthcare is moving into an era of patient-specific solutions or customised healthcare. And what is really important is that these innovations are not only helping improve patients' lives, they're also helping decrease health dollars at the same time. As Professor Clark mentioned earlier, we are and we can increasingly implement these interventions that are here at the present time. And I cannot underemphasise the importance of the support that we receive from the Sydney Local Health District, the Institute of Academic Surgery and Ghana PAS for nurturing this research, because without that, it is not possible for us as surgeons to take our problems that we see in our patient and put our creative and innovative juices to work and come up with what my patient Mark Pratley described as a purposeful innovation. However, even though this technology is around everywhere, most areas in New South Wales, most hospitals and health areas in New South Wales don't have access to this information. And for that, we need to disseminate this knowledge, and we need a lot of teamwork. And I don't just mean the sort of teamwork that you've seen up today with surgeons and scientists working together collaboratively to come up with purposeful innovations. I mean everyone in health needs to engage with this and work as a team, including people in all different specialties, including educators, health administrators, policymakers, and especially the ministry. So I hope that this presentation has helped inspire some ideas that you can take back to translate some of this technology in your work. And we'd really love for you to come to our Snapchat sessions where we can give you a bit of hands-on demonstration of these technologies to try it out for yourself. We will be Kai will be presenting some of our research today, and I'd really like you to, for all of the presenters to come on stage, and really like you all to thank us for sharing, for letting us share our research with you today.